Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and streaming live at WFHR.com. We also welcome our buddy Travis from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. They're digitally recording us in high definition for a broadcast on their website, as well as on your local cable channel. And the reason why, it's time for our monthly Wood County report from County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. And he's brought along two very special guests, and we have a very interesting topic this morning that I think you're going to find enlightening. With that, we welcome the chairman of the Wood County Board, Lance Pliml.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks for having us. We always appreciate the monthly opportunity to come and speak with you.
Okay. So why don't you do the honors and introduce our special guests?
Sure. Well, one of them should probably be pretty familiar to you. That's our district attorney,
yes, I know.
Lambert, who's sitting to my far
Why do you think I'm nervous?
The person who, if you're in trouble, may charge you, so stay out of trouble. And the other one is Emily Nolan-Pluchek, who is out of our public defender's office. So people who normally sit on opposite ends of the table, if you're watching on public access, are sitting next to each other today. I'm not between them refereeing, but they serve as very important members of our Wood County Adult Drug Treatment Court. And as you're aware, the cost associated with prosecution, with enforcement, with incarceration is huge. And one of the things we've tried to do in Wood County is minimize those costs and have better outcomes. And the drug treatment court is one of the places that we try to do that. And these people have been instrumental in that process. And so most of the questions you're going to have this morning are probably going to be for them.
Okay. Well, first off, welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The name implies a different approach to the whole problem of drugs in our drug treatment court. So either of you can just basically describe what the concept involves for our listeners.
Sure. I'll let Emily go first to explain that, and I'll then add if I think I should.
Sure. What it does is it takes a person who is charged with a felony in Wood County that is somehow drug-related. Either it's a drug crime or it's a property crime that's being committed to try and get drugs. And it puts them in a different diversionary track where we provide treatment. It can be inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, day treatment, mental health treatment. We help people find jobs. We help people with any counseling that they may need, and try and get them back established as a good community member who will not go out and commit more crimes, but will be dealing with addiction and staying sober. And with completing the program, then the felony charge is dismissed. So that's kind of the carrot we hang over their head to say, hey, if you are compliant in this program and successful, then you can end up with a felony dismissed.
Okay, and this is Lance and I have talked about this in the past. This is not an easy program. I mean, you earn your way through. How long of a program is it?
It's at least 12 months. I think the average is 14 to 16 months. Initially, when you're in the program, you have to come to court every Monday from about 1 to 3. And then you have UAs 3 to 4 times a week. You have normally day treatment, which is a 5-day program. Plus, you're on probation. So you have all the things that go along with being on probation.
Okay. But the big thing is treatment to break that cycle of dependency. That's what got them in trouble. Craig, you can speak to that as a district attorney. A lot of property crimes I hear, like from when the sheriff is here, a lot of the petty stuff involves someone trying to get money or drugs.
That's true, and not just the petty stuff either.
Okay.
And with the rise of heroin and methamphetamine, not just in our community, but all across the state and nation, we're seeing more and more of that. So a lot of burglaries, car thefts, other property crimes, forgeries, retail thefts, stealing from Walmart, etc. Many of those we're finding more and more are for people to get money to support their drug habit. And speaking or going back to the treatment piece of this, most of the participants we have in the program have already tried almost everything else. They've been on probation. They've been through counseling. Maybe they've even gone themselves to inpatient treatment. And we're kind of their last hope, their last best chance to break that cycle.
Yeah. A lot of times I hear from friends of people who've been busted for something, and maybe they're in prison now. They go, it's such a sad story because all they needed was to get help for their addiction. They need it, and so that's Lance, goes back to the cost of incarceration. Treatment's a lot cheaper, and getting someone back into a normal lifestyle is a lot cheaper than incarcerating.
Absolutely. The number one consideration when we look at candidates for drug court, obviously, number one consideration at the district attorney's office and Craig's office is public safety. So, you have to qualify, first of all. You're presented by a local attorney to the program. You have to meet several criteria. One of them is you're nonviolent. But if we can get those people, back reinserted into society, being productive members, it's hugely beneficial to our community. The cost of incarceration, if I take out all of the other costs involved with social services and the families, just the cost of having them in jail exceeds $50 a day. All day long, every day, 365 days a year. So if we can get them going down a different track, to have them become productive members of society, that's an absolutely good thing. We know that what we were doing didn't work, and I'm sure Craig or Emily could tell you, it's a revolving door with those.
That's what I had heard.
We see those same faces over and over. Mm-hmm. So to try to break that cycle, to try to do something different, this program came into existence, and it's a big team. And you guys can talk about the team.
Yeah, I want to talk
how they come into play, and then how we graduate and get them out into society again.
Okay, if you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, welcome. We're getting our Wood County update. Lance Pliml, Wood County Board Chairman, is here as per usual, and Wood County District Attorney Craig Lampert and Public Defender Emily Nolan Pluchak are here as well, and Wisconsin Rapids Community Media is here too, digitally recording our conversation. So how does someone get into the program? How do you determine that this person would be a good candidate for the program, has a good chance of succeeding?
Yeah, they first have to get referred to the program by somebody. That usually comes from a defense attorney, but not always. It could be a law enforcement officer who comes to the team and says, I think this person is appropriate for drug court. It could be probation and parole. If somebody's already on probation and looking at having their probation revoked, their probation agent might present them to drug court as an alternative to their revocation of probation. The DA's office can suggest that somebody be presented to drug court. And then the team, comprised of multiple people. We have law enforcement on the team, the DA's office, public defenders, private bar attorneys, people from the treatment sector. Judge Wolf is the drug court judge. He is on the team. He doesn't have a vote on whether or not somebody gets in, but he's on the team. Lance is on the team. We have other community members. Ken Hansen, a retired pastor, is on our team. Probation and parole, if I didn't mention that, they're on the team. Then the team evaluates this person, presented usually by the defense attorney. And then the team decides, is this person appropriate just generally for drug court? Does this person have treatment needs that drug court can meet? What's their history? If they have a violent felony in their past, they are not eligible. And so the team discusses that person. If we think they're appropriate for the program, we approve them for the assessment phase. So then they get a drug and alcohol abuse assessment, and they also get a criminal risk assessment. And then we get that report back from the providers that did those assessments and make a final decision on whether or not the person is appropriate for drug court. And if so, then they're approved and they're in the program.
Okay. So most likely the type of person that would meet that requirement, who are we talking about? Someone that maybe this is their first time in the court system, or is it someone that's been in the court system a lot, or what are we?
I think primarily it's people who have already been in the criminal justice system who this is their last best chance.
Okay.
Occasionally we'll have people who it's their first time and they just happen to have done or been caught doing something really big their first time. So they may end up in the program. But they have to be a Wood County resident. They have to be 18 years old. And they have to have a substance abuse program. So those are the three big things that you have to be part of the program.
Are you finding problems getting treatment for one of the things in talking with officials, in fact, Tammy Baldwin, U.S. Senator here, is she was mentioning like up in the Wausau area, there's a clinic up there that has a waiting list for people that want to get treated. Is this sometimes a barrier you have in your program?
It is very much so, Carl, and not just for us. I think nationwide people are talking about the lack of treatment resources. So it is a problem for us, not even so much with finding alcohol or other drug treatment, but many of our participants also have mental health issues that they need mental health treatment for, and there's a serious lack of resources for that as well. So the people with that dual diagnosis, drug problem and a mental health problem, they're particularly difficult to deal with, and not being able to have the resources for them is a challenge. Okay,
so you get into this program. Let's say you go through the assessment and you qualify for the program. How does it work? How do you give us a breakdown? How often do they meet with you, with the team, or is there mentoring? Is there obviously there has to be ongoing counseling and treatment. So give us a picture of what happens during this, say, 14-month period.
Well, initially, you'll have court every Monday from 1 to 3. Every Monday from 12 to 1, the team meets to discuss each participant who's going to come in front of the judge that day. And then you're going to be drug tested 3 to 4 times a week. You're going to have to be in treatment, which normally initially is day treatment. And then as part of going in for your UAs, you have case management too. And our drug court coordinator will meet with you and go over any issues that may be going on in your life. You still will have to meet with probation as well. And that's the first 3 to 4 month period.
So you're meeting almost on a daily basis, it sounds like.
You are. We're trying to keep people very, very busy.
Okay.
And very busy doing treatment.
Okay, that's the key, because off time when they're not busy is when they could fall off the tracks, to use a phrase.
It's about changing lifestyles. It's about breaking past associations. It's about doing all of those things that really have an influence on where your life is going. And it's an extremely taxing program, I think, on the people who get involved. It would be much easier to sit your time, typically, and walk out. But then we have no changes. And the big part of this, and Craig alluded to it earlier, is the reallocation of dollars at the state level. You know, we see the money that's pumped in to the court system and to the prison systems. If we can reallocate those dollars to mental health, to substance abuse programs, I think we're going to have a better bang for our buck. And so they start in these, it might be individual counseling, group counseling, it might be inpatient treatment. We have a lot of resources out there, but then as we progress through the program, I didn't mean to interrupt, it changes. How often you have to appear in court, what your responsibilities are. It starts out, you can go much deeper into this than I can. You need a job at some point.
That's in my case. So as we're getting toward the end of this period, hopefully they are getting their life rearranged, their priorities rearranged, and they're ready to begin life as a normal, productive member of society. So
correct.
Take us, how do we get to that point during the process?
Lance brought up a good point before, and your question is a good one too. But and I want to point out that most of the people in our program, most of the participants are not bad people.
Right.
They're good people that have made a series of bad choices in their life. Most of them have very dysfunctional lives. Many of them weren't raised like we were all raised, with good role models and the tools to make good choices. So we really, for a lot of these people, have to kind of start from scratch. We need to, like Lance said, change their lifestyle, change their way of thinking, get them in a routine, get them structured, get them clean and sober so that they're in a mindset to make decent choices, and then get them some stability. And that stability starts with having to come to court every Monday. It starts with having to show up for drug testing many days a week, meet with the case manager, go to treatment sessions, whether it's day treatment, which is what they start with, one-on-one treatment, mental health treatment, whatever, get them that structure, get them thinking right, and then eventually get them employed. Employment or schooling isn't required in phase one of the program, but it is eventually required. People need to, as they go through the program, either get a job or get enrolled in school or do community service. And we build that structure and get them to a point where they can start making some good, healthy choices.
Yeah, it sounds. How many people have been successfully graduated through the program?
Historically, we've seen about a 50% graduation rate. And right now we're at about 47%. And actually for drug courts, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good, yes. I think we've had right around 75 people graduated out of the program. So
Do you make use of them as maybe mentors to people going through the program, or?
We do, and we've had people who have done alumni groups. And met with people who are in drug court. We had a couple times a person's had questions about what it's really like to be in drug court, and they want to talk to somebody who's already been through the program. So then we reach out to one of them, and they have a conversation with this new person. What else have we done?
Well, and we have some anecdotal evidence of people that end up being leaders for NA or AA meetings, leading groups, sort of taking leadership positions in that community.
Because there's a resource. They can tell their story.
Correct.
Not only about the story of the success of your program, but they could tell their story to other people. They could be used to tell young people, don't go down the road I went through. This is a potential resource in the overall strategy of addressing drug abuse. Have you heard any? Do you get any messages from grads saying, "Hey, thank you, you saved my life"?
Definitely. Definitely.
We do, certainly. So anytime anybody is at the point where they're about to graduate, we have an exit interview with them, where we ask them, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and we get many of those comments. And we've also had family members tell us things like, thanks for giving me my son back.
Yeah, I'm like you said, they're going, we're at wit's end.
Mm-hmm. And they actually have real graduation ceremonies in court with cake. We have Dairy Queen donates cakes for us, and their family members come, and they give the graduating participant gives a little speech, and they're given a diploma, and it's really special.
Okay, so this is something. This isn't a giveaway. This is something they've earned.
Correct.
You have to be motivated to change your life. It sounds like, in order to be successful in this program, and then the program is structured in such a way to give you a good chance of success. The failures, the type of person that fails in the program, is it just someone that?
I think that drug courts across the whole country right now are having a problem with heroin and opiate addicts, and they're relapsing a lot.
I was going to ask you about that.
And I think Craig and I are actually on the Wisconsin Association of Treatment Court Professionals. I'm actually the president, and Craig's a board member. And we're seeing across the whole state that there's just a problem with heroin and opiate addicts. Now, we've talked about it a lot in Wood County, and we're interested in looking at like a medication-assisted treatment modality for treatment, because there are medications out there that block your opiate receptors and then actually help people in treatment. They're actually able to take part in treatment because they're not using, and they're able to get clean and sober. So that's something that we're looking at in Wood County, and I think people across the whole nation are looking at as well. Because
I've heard about just what you talked about. That is such a hard addiction to break that it needs some medical assistance, for lack of it.
Yes.
And so that would seem to make common sense to add that as part of the program. Are you seeing more and more people addicted to opiates and heroin in your program?
Yes, absolutely, and I can just tell you, even by prosecutions in my office, the numbers have increased incredibly. Heroin and meth and other serious narcotic drugs, the numbers of cases, I think we've increased something like 400 or 500% just over the last 4 years.
And I want you to help me break the stereotype. These are not all people who are so-called losers on the lower edge of the economic scale. It affects across the board. There are some people that are, I didn't know he was on drugs.
You are so right. I'd say most of the heroin and methamphetamine people we see are 20-something people. They might be college kids out of high school. It's all across the socioeconomic range.
It's affluent kids too, from really good families.
Yeah, and that's because sometimes I think people get that stereotype. No, it affects everybody, all across everything. So where do you see this court growing, or how is Wood County compared to other courts?
Well, I'll talk about the growing part of it, and then maybe Emily can do some comparisons statewide since she's the president of the state association. But we have grown over the years. We started in 2007. We started with probably about 10 participants or something, and now we're up to 24, I think it is, and we've got about 10 or 12 more in the hopper, so we could be up over 30 within the next couple of months. And that's probably, we just had a discussion about it yesterday, that's probably going to put us about at capacity. We are primarily grant funded at this point. The county does also contribute some funds, but the vast majority of our budget is through a state grant. It's possible that at some point that grant will no longer be available and we're going to have to find other funding sources. So we work with the community foundation and other people locally to try to get some funding as well. So we have grown, and I see it continuing to grow, especially if the heroin and methamphetamine problem continues to rise.
I think this has to be part of the strategy, and it should be part of the statewide strategy for dealing with this. So you're the state chairperson for...
Yeah, I'm the state president for the treatment courts. I think it is growing in everywhere. We've had a competitive grant process this summer, and just innumerable more counties put in to get grant funding. Pretty much every county wants to have at least some kind of treatment court. Be it OWI court, there's mental health court, there's domestic abuse court, or there's drug court. And I see all of these programs growing. There are some counties that have more than one kind of court at this point to try and address different issues. I know there's been some talk also at the state level about eventually making this a statutory requirement that every county has a treatment court. So I only see things growing as well and growing across the board.
Well, as a taxpayer, I would just say I would much rather have my tax dollars going to this kind of an effort than keeping the revolving door going. I mean,
it's going to take a reallocation of dollars at the state level in recognition of the successes that happen here. It's that old definition of insanity. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, you're not going to do that. And this gives us that opportunity. And we certainly, the one thing I want to acknowledge here is we have an extremely dedicated drug court team. I mean, they come in basically what is their lunch hour every single Monday. And I mean every Monday. There might be a holiday where we switch to a Tuesday or something. But I mean, it's week in, week out. The level of competency, the dedication is just tremendous by everybody involved. And I think we've seen some positive results.
Well, it's been a fascinating discussion, and I would just wish you both continued success, all of you, continued success with this effort. Because if you're changing a life, that makes it worthwhile. And if we're making someone from a drug-dependent criminal into a productive citizen, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and these two do change lives. We may set policy as a board, but these are the people on the ground that do the work and change those lives.
Well, thank you for bringing them on the Morning Magazine, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Yes.
And with that, we'll wrap up part one of today's edition of the Morning Magazine. The Morning Magazine, as always, is brought to you by Comfort Air.